Now, typically, the day after the Yankees receive a 14-0 drubbing from a division rival, I would not wake up at the crack of dawn ready to talk baseball and excited to get into it. But the Yankees just picked up Joey Gallo. They just picked up Anthony Rizzo. Both of those guys are expected to be in the lineup tonight. The trade deadline is today at 4 p.m. So I guess you could say my mood is somewhat excited.
I'm jacked.
I'm jacked to the tits!
Not to sound like the old guy in the room or to sound too nostalgic, but when I was growing up, the trade deadline was always midnight on July 31st for many, many, many years. And I remember that there was no MLB network. I had to stay up and watch Baseball Tonight. There was always a special trade deadline edition that would begin about an hour before the deadline, sometimes 2 hours before the deadline. And then it would extend maybe 30 minutes beyond the deadline because there are always deals that trickle in at the last minute. Now, call me nostalgic, but I always thought it was more fun to stay up till midnight and to be tired and to have to wait that entire day. All the games are finished, and you know that the GMs are sitting there in a war room, surrounded by coffee and pizza and a bunch of different phones connected to a bunch of different people who are saying, oh, we got this guy, we got that guy. I just miss that time in baseball. A 4 p.m. deadline isn't as exciting to me, but today is the trade deadline, and there are still some moves to be made. The Yankees did pick up Joey Gallo a couple of days ago. They picked up Anthony Rizzo last night. If you're watching this video, you're probably well aware of both of those moves. I don't think the Yankees gave up an extraordinary amount in prospects to give up either of those guys, and both the Cubs and the Rangers are picking up the remaining respective salaries for Anthony Rizzo and Joey Gallo. So that means that the Yankees do have some room underneath that luxury tax. It's working more like a salary cap, and I think that they're still going to make some moves because right now the team doesn't exactly fit on paper the way it would be if you made a couple of additional moves. So the Yankees are clearly going for it. They're going for that second wild card. I still think that the division is probably a little bit out of reach. Boston has been really good all year. They handled the Yankees really well. It's one of the reasons the Yankees are so far back in the division. And Boston is getting Kyle Schwarber, who was hitting very, very well before he got hurt. He's currently on the injury list. He'll be back soon. But the Yankees do have a shot at that second wild card. They're going to have to outplay either the Rays or the Oakland Athletics. They're going to have to beat one of these teams probably on the road, possibly at home, but possibly on the road in a one-game playoff. That is not going to be easy. The additions of Joey Gallo and of Anthony Rizzo give a different dynamic to this lineup, though. Now you have the opportunity to put left-handed hitters in each third of the order. You're still a predominantly right-handed team, but let's say you put Joey Gallo in the number 3 spot. He'll be playing probably left field most of the time. We'll talk about the outfield setup in just a minute. And then you could put Anthony Rizzo in maybe the number 6 spot at first base. And then maybe Greg Allen, if he's your center fielder, a switch hitter, in the number 9 hole. That gives you speed at the bottom ahead of DJ LeMahieu. So if he gets on base, maybe DJ LeMahieu picks up a base hit. Now all of a sudden you got first and third because Allen is the type of guy who can take third base on a single from first base. So it does give you a little bit more of a dynamic. And not to mention, these two guys that they've added are both Gold Glove caliber defensive players. Gallo is playing left field, which is a really tough place to play. Yankee Stadium's left field is kind of like center field for a lot of ballparks. It's so big, they call it Death Valley. Assuming they don't get a Max Kepler or somebody else for center field, I think Allen is your center fielder for the rest of the year. He can bat ninth, and he can run them down out there in center field. So your outfield is now very defensively sharp. And with Rizzo over there at first base and DJ LeMahieu at second base, now the right side of your infield is very strong. Gleyber Torres still not the greatest defensive shortstop. He has improved this year, but someone pointed out to me the other day that he still has negative defensive runs saved for the year. But Gio Urshela over there at third is dynamic. And Gary Sanchez has been solid behind the dish, and Kyle Higashioka is a very good backup. So I feel like your defense has been shored up, and you've added some missing elements to your lineup in terms of left-handed hitters, and you've added a little bit more power. So this is definitely going to change and improve the team over the final 8 weeks of the season. I'm feeling good about it. This does create some potential hiccups if Luke Voit is able to come back. Luke Voit was hitting against Luis Severino yesterday before the game in Tampa. Maybe it was the day before that. But they're both getting close to come back, Severino and Luke Voit. With Luke Voit now expendable, I think you may see him dealt before the 4 p.m. deadline. There's probably a lot of teams out there, especially in the National League, who are looking for that DH next year. Someone pointed out to me today that there's no DH in the National League. I'm well aware of that. But Rob Manfred said that next year the DH may be coming to the National League. And I think rather than teams having to bid on free agents, you have a chance to get a former Major League home run leader, albeit in a shortened season, who doesn't make a ton of money. You might have to give up some prospects, but I think that's what the Yankees are probably working on today. I still think they're going to try and get another relief pitcher. I still think that they're going to try and get another starting pitcher. But to me, the priority is seeing what you can get for Luke Voit because he's expendable at this point. There's also another possibility that they don't move Luke Voit, that they intend to put Luke Voit at DH, which means that Giancarlo Stanton has got to play the outfield. Now, do you want to put Giancarlo Stanton out there in left field and risk him getting hurt? I don't know. That maybe means that you've got to put Joey Gallo out there in center field, or maybe put Joey Gallo in right field and put Aaron Judge in center field, where he's played a lot this season. So there's a little bit of a outfield jumble that comes into play if you decide that you don't want to trade Luke Voit. Right now, I think that Luke Voit is almost certainly a goner today, but that's just the view of a fan. Just one fan who's been watching this team. I don't know what Brian Cashman is up to. I don't have any inside information. There were a couple of tweets last night that suggested that Yankee sources said the Yankees were not done. I didn't think we were done. I stayed up late trying to keep up with any potential trades that would happen, and the Yankees did not make any other moves last night. So be on the lookout before today's deadline for Luke Voit to get dealt. And if he doesn't get dealt, that means the Yankees are going to try some weird stuff in the outfield. Giancarlo Stanton probably going to play in the outfield against Miami this weekend. There is the possibility, albeit a vanishingly small possibility, that you could trade Giancarlo Stanton. You would have to eat an enormous amount of his contract, and you would have to trade him to a place where he wants to go. Now, if he feels he could go out west and be a piece on a potential championship team, maybe a team that has a better chance than the Yankees right now, I think maybe that move could happen. But I'm not counting my chickens. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just kind of wishful thinking. I think Luke Voit is probably the guy that gets moved. He's got more trade value than Giancarlo Stanton because he doesn't make as much money. And he's coming back soon. He can play first base. He can DH. And I feel like there's a lot of teams that could use him next season. So let's just wait and see what happens. But fingers crossed that the Yankees continue to adjust this roster. I don't think they're done yet.